So we'll start off with our 1-minute opening statements, and we'll do the same thing back and forth. It's kind of confusing, but.
Start with me.
Yes, sir.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Paul Belew. I'm running for the vacant spot in the 271st Wise County, Jack County District Court race. I'm used to standing in front of a crowd picking juries. I picked a jury last week in Tarrant County. So I always say thank you for my 200 best friends that some of them I've never seen before. You're kind of captive. So I'd like to thank you for coming. We'll get into the merits of everything here in a little bit. Again, the office encompasses Wise County, not only Wise County, but District County. We're a 2-county judge. So whoever replaces Judge Smith, whether it be myself or Mr. Lloyd, will be over 2 counties in the district court. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Andrew Lloyd, and I am running for the 271st District Court as well. That's kind of obvious because it's up there on the screen. I want to tell you that I love God and I love family, and I've put that on my sign so that you know exactly where my moral compass is. I also want to let you know about that up front because it's what I've believed since I was a child and how I was raised under the Constitution of the United States and this free land and under our Texas Constitution. Born and raised, native Texas, love this place, love Wise County. There are some tenets that are very easy to have learned when you were a Boy Scout. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Not only did I know that as a young man, I taught that as a Scoutmaster, and all the other areas that I've practiced in, I have always kept those morals. And what is that Scout law? A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. That's what I stand by. That's what I'll bring to this bench. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, love the mustache. Love the mustache. Okay, for the first question that I've already said, how do you define the role of a district judge in Texas? I'm going to start with you.
Start with me. So I would define the role of the district court in Texas as one that commands respect. The person that is going to be in charge of Wise County and Jack County dockets, trials, and other matters is going to have to command respect. And God bless him, Judge Faustel, I knew he commanded respect. God bless Judge Koo, he passed from COVID, he commanded respect. He was a county court judge. And then Brock Smith, he commands respect. Okay, so the role of the district court, though, is not only to determine that each litigant gets their day in court a fair and impartial trial, but also to deliver a fair and impartial punishment. Now, a lot of people like to say tough on crime. Nobody wants crime to run rampant in Texas or our communities, okay? But unlike other states, Texas has the option where a defendant can go actually to the jury for punishment. And some people believe that jury punishment is a better measure of what the community would like to see. The problem is the defendant has that election. He can elect to do that. The district court can't stop that. The state can't stop that. So the role of the district court also encompasses being over the auditor and the probation department too. And they have to interact with law enforcement and all kind of other agencies. But that's mainly what I think the district role is, to command respect and get control of the 2 counties. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd.
I'll differ in this word. I don't believe it's about command. I believe it's about earning respect. The role of a judicial officer, especially in the district court, is to uphold the rule of law. It's the law that we've all signed on to as citizens in this great nation, in this state in particular, and in these counties. Our job is to be the rule of law. Not only to make sure that justice is served, but make sure there is decorum within a courtroom. To make sure that the person who is judging you is someone that's respectful, that's responsible, that listens to you, that understands you, that allows you to actually have due process by order of the Constitution, both in Texas and the U.S. The role of a judicial officer is to make sure that law is followed. If we don't follow the laws and we don't get punished or we don't receive verdicts in even civil matters in a district court, we're going to have lawlessness outside of that district court. You can see it. You watch the same news channels and you hear the same podcasts and you hear the same radio news that I do. We've got to have a judicial officer that will not command but earn the respect because he's respectful himself. I've worked with all kinds of people. I've done all kinds of cases. We'll probably hear about that in a little bit. This is the right way to have a judicial philosophy. It's to be honorable, have integrity, honest, and uphold that rule of law. Thank you.
I'm going to make him stand back up again. It's leg day. Does your religious faith inspire or inform public service as a judge, and if so, how?
My religious faith absolutely inspires my role as a judge. It tells you exactly what my moral character is. I love God, and I love Jesus Christ as my Savior, and I believe in the Bible, and I believe that morality needs to exist. Our forefathers who wrote the Constitution and those who wrote in the Texas Constitution, by the way, go look at the first line in it, right? They ask Almighty God to bless Texas. That's the first line. It does affect everything I do because it tells you the kind of person I am. Now, as a judge, however, no law about race, creed, color, sex shall come before me, or I shouldn't make an inference based on those things. So we have to set that aside in order to follow exactly what the law is. But at least you know we'll do it honestly. You'll do it because you love serving your fellow man. You'll do it because you're a community citizen and you believe and uphold the laws together with the community. So I believe the religion does affect you. I also believe it will help you in blessing the lives of those who come before you. It also lets me know that everyone counts. Everyone, as was said on the stage before, is a son or daughter of God and deserves respect. Thank you.
Of course. Does your religious faith inspire or inform your public service as a judge, and if so, how?
Okay, so I'd like to address that. So, there is a doctrine of separation of church and state, but a lot of people misunderstand that. That went back to Thomas Jefferson's days and the forming of a national religion and things like that. I also believe in God. I was brought up a Catholic. My mom browbeat me with the Bible every day, and then I reformed into a Baptist. Okay, so I think that's a good thing. I believe in one true God, one true Bible, and I believe elected judge. And I want to clarify one thing. I believe I've earned that respect to command as a district judge. And I believe with God's guidance, He can help me to make the decisions I need to. And when we get into the separation of church and state, if that's asked later, I just finished a trial in Tarrant County, and I asked the judge, I said, Judge, you have a framed photo, and it says, "In God We Trust." How do you feel about that? And he called me to the bench, and he said, "Mr. Belew, we have in God we trust on our money, and we have in God we trust in our courtroom." And I believe that. I believe God would guide whoever is chosen, but you still have to go by the rule of law in the Constitution. That is tantamount to justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question is, what legal experiences have best prepared you to serve as a district judge? Mr. Beckby.
So, my best experience would be, first of all, I'd like to say that I do double the CLE hours every year that's required. So I'm a member of a special bar section. I also do double the pro bono hours for people that are indigent and things like that. And before our hospital was bought out by a large corporation, we had a mental health facility. And I was the only one during a period of about 10 years that was appointed to deal with mental health. And what I want to tell you is, my experiences are, I've had over 200 jury trials in many different counties, most of them in Wise and Jack County. I just finished one in Tarrant. But those life experiences through trials, I even get attorneys, the attorney in Fort Worth, it wasn't my case, he even asked me, he said, Mr. Belew, you've done so many trials, will you come help me? This person has a mental illness. And I did, and I helped him. Judge Smith even appoints me on cases with new lawyers to help them train. I believe my life experiences, my trial experiences, my interactions with probation, with the auditor's office, with the DA, which we don't always get along, but once we do, we reach an agreement. If we don't, we have a trial. It's the same thing with law enforcement. And I just want to say my deep roots with the community, I relate well with others, and I believe my life experiences and trial experiences and courtroom experiences would translate into the best judge for Wise County, Jack County.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you listen closely, you will hear the words DA or the state, and you'll hear defendant. I believe that my opponent is primarily a criminal defense attorney. Now, I don't knock it because I'm also a criminal defense attorney, and I do about 20% of that in my practice. Nothing wrong with that. I'm also a former prosecutor, which means I was on the other side of the law. What does that tell you? It means I know how to do both sides of it. That this is a general jurisdiction court, so it doesn't matter how many criminal trials you've done. It matters that you understand all the cases that come before you, and about 23% of the cases are criminal. The rest is civil, family, personal injury, debt, etc., right? That's what I've handled. I've handled mostly family law and a lot of criminal and a lot of civil and a lot of litigation that involves contracts and all kinds of matters. Let me tell you about a case where the court needed me. The judge said, we've got to make sure we have someone who can jump in on this case because there are fraud lawsuits in California that are being transferred to Texas. There are 3 investigative agencies. There is a forensic psychologist and there are forensic accountants. We got to figure out what the murder for plot hire is and why CPS came into her life and what do we do about the claim that they stole the money and replaced the property. I don't know if you heard all the types of law in that case, but the court said there's only one guy in town who's going to be able to do it, and that's Andrew Lloyd, because he knows everything about each of these subjects. That's what you need in a judge. I come in, as you've heard before from others, day one ready. It's what I do all day. I've been in these courts for 23 years. Thank you.
I'd like to rebuttal on that. I'd like to add a little bit to my experience. About 1 in every 4 cases do family law in the 271st. I've experienced in family law. I've done family law. I've also been a special prosecutor here in Wise County several years ago. So I've been on that side too. And the proudest moment I've been talking about complex litigation and knowing what you're doing is, one of my best clients is Jacob Strand from Paradise, Texas. And let me tell you, okay, I cannot tell you about what's going on with the case, but let me tell you, FedEx and I have been battling back and forth, and I'm going up against lawyers from Houston that had 650 people in their law firm, and I take my little arse up there, and I go one-on-one with them, and I'm whipping the crap out of them. And I just want you to know that. Thank you.
I'll handle that rebuttal. Let's talk about Jacob Strain for a moment, because he's also my client. This Tanner horror case is absolutely horrible. And that trial's going on because our good DA is fighting it like crazy as he should, and we're so grateful for him in our community. I believe in the same kind of big justice and swift justice because I believe we need all extent of that full range of punishment to be considered, and our DA has done it. What happened after that case, however, which you don't know, is that CPS came in to take Jacob Strand's kids. Now, who kept that from happening? And who got in and fought every one of the CPS agency and told the judge, you want to make a mockery out of judicial law? Let's do it. I'm bringing the press in. I made sure the CPS didn't take his kids after y'all had given him $30,000 to give support for the family. Then they took all the money and put it in a trust, these big conglomerates and these people up in New York and whoever else he's doing local counsel with. And guess who's having to weed that and figure that out now that he's got a divorce? I am trying to fix the same problems because someone doesn't give you good advice. But I certainly do. Thank you.
Okay, the fourth question is, how would you ensure timely rulings and reduce unnecessary delays? And this will be from Mr. Lloyd.
That's a really good question. I talked to several people outside, and I've talked to multiple agencies, not only law enforcement, but also other judges, the mayors of the towns. I've talked to our city councils. I've talked to everyone involved. I've talked to our district clerk's office, county clerk's office. We just need some more transparency. Everyone that's told me when I've asked them, hey, what's the problem though? What do you see? What needs to be fixed? Because I want to know that. I want to know going in that we can move things forward, right? Brock Smith's done an amazing job. Oh, sheesh, every door I knock, they're like, oh, Brock Smith, handled my force. Oh, Brock Smith. He's been doing it for over 50 years, okay? So he's been around. But there are things that are slow. We need to bring technology up to speed, not only with our auditor's office, but also in the general court system. We need to make sure that we have enough technology, even using AI, to move things forward. We also need to make sure that if we're going to move things forward, that everyone can move with it. I was in a court docket the other day, and they said, please don't make us sit around here for 3 hours. Let me tell you about past jobs, I guess, if it helps. I was at a clearinghouse in Dallas, okay? Essentially, I was about to take the Series 7 and become a stockbroker. Why? Because I'm too smart for my own good, I guess. But I determined that doesn't really help people. That's just money on money. I left. They begged me to come back in 2 weeks, and they said, please come back. We'd hire 3 people to cover what you do. That's an example of what I do all day long. There are not attorneys that handle as many cases as I do at any one given time. It's just the way I would move things along. I'm quick. Let's make it happen. Let's get the fishing back in the courtroom.
How would you ensure timely rulings and reduce unnecessary delays?
Well, first of all, some of the delays are necessary. I mean, I hate to admit that. Some are necessary. And let me give, I don't want to superimpose on him, but I'm going to tell you the DA has done a great job prosecuting that FedEx case in Tarrant County. It's taking resources from Wise County. We can't help it. Justice has to be served in that case. We also have a backlog on the docket. We have a dismissal docket. We have jails that can be full at times, jails that can't be full at times. It just depends. It takes an army. It doesn't just take the district judge. A judge can stand up there and say, I'll just pick John Smith. John Smith files a speedy motion. I've been in jail for a year. Judge that's sitting there can just go, dismissed. He can do that. But that's not necessarily justice. So what we have to do to reduce backlog inefficiency is all work together. Technically, the district judge has no authority over the county commissioners or county judge, I don't believe. But we all need to get together on the same page and take examples from other counties. Parker County, that's a good example. They're experiencing the same growth, but they have a plan. We need to get a plan in place, and it's going to be very difficult for either one of us to figure that out, but one of us will figure it out. Thank you.
The next question is, what does judicial restraint mean to you, and how does it guide your decisions?
So judicial restraint is basically what I interpret the rule of law in the Constitution. Again, the judge sits up there, he dictates the speed of the trial a little bit. God rest his soul, Judge Postel would say, move along, move along, move along. But to answer your question, sorry.
You're good. What does judicial restraint mean to you?
Restraint, that's what I'm looking for. So restraint is insinuates restricted. So you can't really have judicial restraint unless you go by the rule of law and the Constitution. So judicial restraint is not like what, and I can't speak for Andrew, but he's right, I do a lot of criminal defense. And I told a story on the podcast in the back, and I may be asked about it here. But have you ever done anything to a judge that made him make a wrong decision? And I did. I argued something was unconstitutional. The liberal judge in Dallas was all blue, and he agreed with me. I made bad law, and let me tell you, the legislature closed that loophole the very next time. So you have to have judicial restraint and go by what, if Mr. Hopper's in office, whatever they put forth, you have to go by. Thank you.
It's an interesting question. Judicial restraint really means that the judge has to contain himself, withhold himself, not be emotional, not do things that are on a whim. I've got 4 kiddos that showed up tonight, and I never spanked them in anger, but I know I was angry with them many times. And they're all better for it, and thankfully they still love me, right? But that's called restraint. It means that you've had enough life experience and you understand that everyone's going to be impatient. People are going to get hot-headed. Lawyers are going to come in with allegations and get up and yell and say things. You can tell just by Paul and I up here that we know how to fight in the courtroom, okay? But judicial restraint means you give everyone respect, you honor them, and you set a tone. And do you have expectations, right? If I have set an expectation in a bar and people know when they come into the courtroom that certain things give certain reactions, we start to deter crime. We start to deter those silly behaviors. If people show up and they want to be, no suit coat or ties all mangled, that's really not the way to show respect for the last vestige of what we have in judiciary, right? That's under our Constitution. So you're going to have to show what decorum means and then make sure to restrain yourself when people are learning. Give them an opportunity, such as, I think you want to come back to me in about 30 minutes after you've gone home to put a tie on, and give them the opportunity to do it so they can look proper in a courtroom. Thanks.
How do you how do you approach sentencing while balancing public safety, rehabilitation, and accountability?
Oh my goodness, that's a good one. So everybody wants to run on tough on crime, and I'm not against that. But the judge is a neutral arbiter. So what happens is, I'll take Parker County for example. I tried a case over there not too long ago, and I got the minimum sentence on someone that was facing 25 to life from a jury. And the judge there actually pulled me aside and said, we can't be having that in my courtroom. That sets a bad bar. And I'm like, he was kicked. But that goes to, you have to take each case by individual basis. Because, and also the crime that's committed. You may have a one-time offender that just will not plead to less than a gram of methamphetamine. Okay? He wants a trial. Or he may not be here legally. He wants a trial, he has to have a trial. Well, here's what happened is, first time offense, it's mandatory probation for that. Judge has no discretion over that. That was set by the legislature. The legislature gives us a wide range of punishment from 5 to 99 for first degrees to all the way down to state jails, which are technically 4th degrees. And a judge cannot probate a deadly weapon, but a jury can. A jury cannot probate a felon. So sometimes you have a felon with a gun and you go to the judge, you have to give him prison time. Okay? Now the people that are repeat offenders, they need to be taught a lesson. They need to be taught a lesson. Now, in that, I know it's time to stop, but in that, you have to have some plea bargaining too, because if we have a trial on everybody and only about 2% go to trial, you have to make a statement. But you take an oath as a judge not to hammer people, basically, to make people plead out. Thank you.
So there's not much more to add relative to criminal cases. There are lots of options on how to make sure to balance whether or not they need to be punished. But you just need to understand that a judge has, although he's a neutral arbiter, he's going to make the final, or she, right, especially with the JPs, but they're going to make the final decision relative to what that punishment is, right, if they don't go to the jury. So you've got to be able to consider that full range. The good news is we have a great district attorney's office, we have a fantastic county attorney's office, and they offer plea bargains all day long to help those people that are first offenders. And we work hand in hand and back and forth with them all day, and they understand where the judges sit and how that works and what's going to be best for the community. Right? But the first job for a judge is to consider, how can this bless? How can this educate? How can I keep this person from coming back? And what is it I need to understand about them, right? Let's consider a family law case. What do you do when CPS comes in and they take your granddaughter away? How are you going to deal with that? Do you run in and start mouthing off to the judge and say, how dare you, and this or that? Or do you ask the judge for some understanding, let you take some classes and let you work through essentially like a probationary program, do services in order to prove that you have a right to get your child back? The judge should allow these means and these ways in order to have their children come back to them. Same thing in a divorce. Maybe one party wants something that the other party shouldn't ask for, a psychological evaluation. Well, oh my gosh, now they're saying I'm crazy? Well, of course you're saying I'm crazy. I'm divorcing the fool, right? Well, I want them to get a psych eval. Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You want a psych eval? That's great. You pay for theirs. And guess what? You want one? Well, you pay for theirs. So there are lots of methods and means that a judge will use his discretion in order to make sure that everyone has a fair and due process. Thank you.
The last question is, how do you balance following precedents with interpreting the law in new or evolving situations?
Oh, I'll just follow. I didn't hear the question.
Sorry, no. How do you balance following the precedents with with interpreting the law in new or evolving situations?
I think the question you're asking is, so we have precedential value. Precedent means that there are other cases in other counties or other jurisdictions or at an appellate court level or the Supreme Court level. It's all the case law research that we do as attorneys in order to go prove our legal grounds to the judge, right? And it's not just guilty or not guilty. In many cases, you have to prove multiple areas, right? You've got to prove how much was that person negligible? What was the percentage? Why is that not considered negligence? Why is that contract not formed properly? What is it that's missing, Judge? Well, there was no meeting of the minds, or there wasn't anything to base the contract on, or they never did any commission or act in furtherance of the contract, right? These are things that if you only do criminal law, you're not going to know. The rationale is that you have to look at the law that came before. Now, when there's emerging law, you give the attorneys an opportunity to present that to you. One of the greatest benefits, I would say, of becoming a judge, provided you elect me, is I don't have to go do all that research as much anymore. They need to do the research and bring it to me. It's called briefs. And they give you all the law, they tell you their argument, they go off and research it, and they come back and say, Judge, this is why we're saying what we're saying. The good news is you've got a studious individual right here who's like, I don't know, 1,200 days on Duolingo because I already speak German, now I want to learn Spanish, okay? I can't help myself. I learn all the time. I'm grateful to look up the cases. I will read each and every brief and each and every document, each and every pleading that comes before me before I ever step foot in that courtroom, I'll do it. Why? Because I'm a dang fast reader. Because I'm a smart guy, okay? Sorry if that comes off a little bit arrogant. Go look at my grades. The good news about that is that I'm ready to have individuals come in and teach me because I'm always willing to learn as well. I'm a member of the College of the State Bar. I don't just do double. I do 40 or 50 hours a year because I want to. No one told me to do that. I do it because I want to be the best at what I do. Thank you.
So, judicial precedent, to me, means the rule of law and the Constitution again. Well-established case law, depending on what kind of case it is, family law, criminal law, contract law, whatever kind of law it is set forth. And I'm going to tell you right now, no matter how much experience Mr. Lloyd has or I have, they don't send one of us to baby judge school. Okay, they give you a handbook, because I know a judge that was newly elected, and he has to look up a lot of stuff in his bench bar book. And he has the best strategy of all, and Mr. Lloyd actually touched on it. If you don't know, or you have a question about it, or there's an argument to extend the precedent, not change it, but maybe a good faith law exception or something like that, have the attorneys brief it, bring cases, and come to court and be able to make that argument to the judge. And the judge will make that decision. He'll either say, this is the precedent, or this case is distinguishable, meaning I can deviate a little bit, but he still has to go by the rule of law and the precedent. The precedent was set a long time ago. Some laws on the books are still from the 1800s. And that needs to be enforced and does not need to be deviated from. And again, if you don't know the answer and you're the judge, there's no harm in telling the attorneys, approach. I'd like to brief on the subject. There's a polite way to do that. Thank you.
And now it is time for closing statements.
All right, so in closing, I'd like to say thank y'all for your consideration. We don't want to leave out Jack County because Jack County is part of this. I grew up here, graduated. I actually worked on a dairy farm for my dad in '69. I believe I was a young kid and I was shoveling poop, and that's where I got my work ethic. And at the time, that was before he had that post thing that you did, and I'd hold that post, and we'd work day and night. We had host things. The last thing I want to say is I grew up here. That does not mean that I am beholden to anybody. The only person I'm beholden to is the Lord Jesus Christ and God. That's it. And I would ask for your support. And if you have questions, I need you to DM me, meet me. My favorite hangout's the Homesteader and the Trinity. I'll always be available. But I'm going to be honest with you, I'm in court most of the time. So I appreciate your attention. Appreciate you taking the night off. And you don't know how important it is, not just to Andrew and myself, but to Wise County and Jack County. And I would ask for your support. And if you have any questions, look at our websites or just ask us questions. Thank you so much for your attendance.
I am grateful that he said to look at our websites. It's very helpful. I've had a lot of goofy statements online that I've seen that literally, if you go look at my website, you'll see I've got 80 plus jury trials. And if you talk about regular cases in front of a judge and trials and family law, I'm in courtroom. I am in that courtroom every day litigating. Family law case could be temporary orders and you'd be in front of the judge for 2 days and it's not a final trial, but you are arguing and you do have witnesses, and you are putting on evidence, and you are making an opening statement, and you're making cross-examination, and you're making a closing argument. It's all the same stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Everything's a mini trial, okay? So when you're a litigator, it's what you do. But let me tell you why I'm a good litigator. Because all the courts appoint me to go bless the lives of all the other attorneys and you folks to quit the litigation and save you money. They appoint me as a mediator, often. Very often. I'm doing 5 and 10 mediations a month lately. I can't even run my practice, let alone campaign lately, okay? Because I'm solving cases. I'm taking them off the court's docket and getting them done. Now, how is it that people are hiring me to do that and the courts are appointing me to do that? Because I'm good at what I do. Because I want to do it for you. I am a servant of God, but I'm your servant too. You're the one who's elected me to make sure to uphold the rule of law in your county and in Jack County. And I've spoken with everyone over there the same way here. You look at that group of people that stood up here and announced that they were your precinct chairs and that they vet everyone, you go find out who they vetted in this race. And then you ask yourself, based on your convictions, based on the Spirit, based on what you've heard tonight, whether or not I'm the right person. The courts have asked me to train individuals. I have done continuing legal education, not for myself. I've been the guy that mentors and trains them so that they can get credit for the state bar. That's what the state bar asked me to do. I'm the right person. I hope you'll vote for me on March 3rd. Andrew Lloyd, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dad.